Well, let's get into it, Tony. So we've got you here, the man with the knowledge, the info, the intel.
I don't have any knowledge or info.
Okay, all right. Well, you answer the questions.
I'll try as best as I can. You ask me a question. Let's go. Shoot.
I'm just going to go to your timeline and see which questions have been asked the most.
Okay.
No, I'm just
No, George Hill is not coming back to the Jazz. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way.
That's out of the way. So, a big picture view. Now that we're at where we're at, we've seen the dominoes fall across the league. The Jazz made a tremendous few additions this season. It's a free agency I don't think any Jazz fan in their right minds dreamt of. Like, this has been the offseason of all offseasons in Utah Jazz history. How would you – I don't want to put you on the spot, but how would you rate this Jazz offseason compared to what the rest of maybe the Western Conference did or the rest of the league?
Well, obviously, I mean, in terms of, if with the Jazz, I mean, individually, their offseason was a home run. Getting Bojan Bogdanovic, getting Mike Conley, getting Jeff Green, and Ed Davis and Emmanuel Mudiay as ancillary guys, role guys. Right now the only question is the two questions that I have going into the season are, can this team stay healthy and can this team gel? And, if that's the case, then I think that this team is one of the top 3 teams in the West and one of the top 5 teams in the league. So, it's a team that I think has been put together that has a chance to be one of the top 5 offensive and defensive teams in the league. I think there's some dependence on Donovan Mitchell taking a step forward, but there's been ample evidence that he's capable of taking that step. But I mean, you look through the starting lineup and you look through the closing lineup. I mean, the Jazz are going to be able to put a closing lineup of Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Bojan Bogdanovic, Joe Ingles, and Rudy Gobert on the floor. I mean, that's dangerous on both ends of the floor in terms of the spacing, in terms of the playmaking, in terms of, Rudy Gobert, causing havoc in the middle. It's a team that, can play big, it can play small. If Dante Exum can stay healthy, you have real defensive guys in Exum and Royce O'Neal. There's a lot of shooting on the roster. So the Jazz have had they've had a bang up A+ offseason.
Yeah. And,
it's, obviously the West is really, really good, but, I think the Jazz are a team right now that can stand up to pretty much any team in the West in a playoff series.
So you brought up a couple key points that I want to hit on. The first one was Donovan Mitchell and his progress. I think what we learned, watching the playoffs this last season with Kawhi carrying the Toronto Raptors, you need your best player. Usually the best player leads his team to victory, right? Like that's what we learned is Kawhi's the best player on the planet right now, playing the best ball right now, and he led his team to the championship. Does Donovan Mitchell, how important is it? Is that priority number 1 for the Jazz now moving forward? Is Donovan Mitchell taking that next step as a star, superstar? Yeah,
because he's the one with the upside right now, right? Like he's going to be 23 when the season starts. So you look and you say, okay, he's got 4 more years of growth left in his game. Rudy Gobert is 27. He's entering his prime. So how much more is Rudy Gobert going to grow as a player? And what he is right now is an all-NBA center. He's one of the top 3 centers in the league. But how much better is he going to get? We know that Mike Donovan is peaked. I mean, Mike Conley is peaked.
Yeah.
We know that Joe Ingles is peaked. We know that Bojan Bogdanovic is peaked. So the 2 guys that haven't peaked are Donovan Mitchell and Dante Exum. So right now, when you look at finances and you look 2 years down the line, the Jazz are going to be capped out. How does this team get better? The team gets better through internal improvement. So then that puts a lot of onus on Donovan to reach that ceiling, and that puts some onus on Dante Exum to do the same. But this is a 2-year timeline for this team in terms of being championship ready. I mean, they can realistically compete for a championship this year. They can realistically compete for a championship next year, and then you have to start making some hard decisions financially. You have Rudy Gobert's Supermax that's going to come up. You're going to have Donovan Mitchell's max that's going to come up, which is a no-brainer. They're going to extend him. Dante Exum comes off the books. Mike Conley comes off the books. Joe Ingles comes off the books. All these guys, are going to come off the books in 2 years. So, the runway for the Jazz is the runway for the Jazz and the window for the Jazz is now, and it lasts this year, and then it's going to last next year. And then you're going to see. Then you kind of take stock and see where you're at.
Kind of reassess.
Right. So Donovan Mitchell's gotta grow. And, they're counting on him to grow. Like they need him to be the Donovan Mitchell of the second half of last year.
So what specifically does Donovan need to improve?
Well, he's got to improve it. He's got to improve his efficiency. He's got to improve his playmaking out of the pick and roll. I think a lot of what I saw last year though was he was working with limited spacing.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be an issue this year. So, here's the thing, like the front office gave him the tools.
Yeah.
Right? Like they gave him a dynamic playmaking top 10 point guard in the league. They gave him
probably the most underrated player overall.
One of the most underrated players in the league. They gave him a small forward who shoots 45% on open threes, who averaged 18 points a game last year, who's going to be like your third or fourth option this year when he was the number one option on a playoff team last year.
Crazy.
So you gave him, shooting all around. Like they've given him everything that he needs. So now it's on Donovan. And I think he's really capable. As I said, the efficiency has got to improve. Like the 10 for 31 nights from the field, like that's got to stop.
Yeah.
I think the defense has got to improve, but I think that can improve because there won't be as much onus on him offensively. Like I think that there's a real runway for him to average more points on less shots per game.
That would be huge.
Right. And that would be huge.
Yeah.
And there's a real runway, because right now you look at the playmakers on this team. Mike Conley's a playmaker. Joe Ingles is a playmaker. Bojan Bogdanovic has proven to be a playmaker, and that's all without looking at Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
So you look at all of those playmakers, and they're taking possessions through 48 minutes, and then the goal is to have Donovan Mitchell fresh for those last 5 minutes of every game.
That's going to be so crucial for him.
Right.
It's going to help him so much. Bringing it back to the offseason, which move, and maybe it's not surprising to you because you're the man with the info, with the intel. You're
I'm
the
not
guy,
the man with anything.
You're the guy mapping it out like Woj.
I'm Ari Abraham. Okay, let me stop.
You're Ari Abraham? Whoa, bro. Whoa.
Breaking news.
Don't kill yourself. Don't shoot yourself in the foot, bro. But what move was most surprising to you? Because I remember when Joe Johnson was signed. That was like, whoa, Joe Johnson. And this season it was Ed Davis, like, surprise. Jeff Green, that was a big surprise. Emmanuel Mudiay, like that was a surprise.
Okay, now I'm gonna toot my own horn. I wasn't surprised by any of that.
See, I knew it.
No, but I had. Okay, so
when they told you.
Okay, so hold on. So
when your sources told you.
Let's go through this. I had the Mike Conley stuff before anybody else.
Right.
I had the Bojan Bogdanovic stuff before anybody. I had that the night before.
Yeah.
And I had Jeff Green. I knew once the Jazz signed Bogdanovic, I knew that Jeff Green was the guy. The surprise with Jeff Green was that the Jazz thought they were going to get Jeff. The Jazz thought they would have had to. The Jazz thought they had to use their mid-level.
Throw some more money at him.
Right.
Yeah.
So when they got Ed Davis. I was surprised at Ed Davis.
Okay.
That one came out of left field for me. I was surprised at Ed Davis. When they got Ed Davis for the mid-level, I was like, oh, well, they're not going to be able to get Jeff Green.
They're not bringing my Hoya.
They're not bringing my Hoya here. Like, this is – but then, my sources were like, no.
Calm down, Tony. Calm down.
Jeff is still a part of this.
Yeah.
So I started tweeting out, Jeff Green minimum.
That's wild. Yeah.
And Jeff Green came on a minimum. So,
that's wild.
But
man.
most of those, but 80% of the stuff, I was there on.
You were like, that. I've been on this.
I knew that Mike Conley was the guy.
Yeah.
And then I got wind of Bogdanovich, and that was a pretty.
That was huge because nothing against Mirotić. I've got some gripes with Mirotić.
Let's just say I was pleased.
Yes. I'm pretty sure most Jazz fans would agree with you that Bogdanovich is probably and I understand the thinking though with wanting to, if you could have got Mirotić at $12 million and had some extra money to spend elsewhere, like that's understandable. But based on just talent alone, like,
well, here's the thing, and I can't go all the way with this because I don't want to out anybody. Nobody's
wanting you to out yourself, Tony.
But I will say this: had the Jazz gotten Mirotić, they would have also gotten a perimeter guy in here for a good price.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been pretty good. Like the Jazz would have liked him. So I still probably would have preferred the way it worked out because I think Bogdanovich is legitimately
he's legit.
Good. Like
yes.
he's good.
He carried that
Pacers
right.
He carried that Pacers offense the second half of the year, and he's going to be the third option here.
That's crazy.
So I still prefer, but
yes, but they had a plan.
Had they gotten Mirotić, they would have also gotten this other perimeter guy.
Yeah,
who would have fit in pretty well, and he wouldn't have had to start either, which would have been really good.
Wow, that's crazy.